No! No! No!
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome to the BloodyBlu Oubliette, which, coincidentally, looks a whole lot like Celluloid Central. I'm the Son of Celluloid, Nathan Hamilton, and tonight we're here to talk about the AGFA Blu-ray release of Effects. Effects is a movie, came out in 1980. It's a horror flick about a cameraman who gets hired to work on a low-budget horror film, who soon comes to believe that he may actually be working on a snuff film. Features a whole lot of George Romero alumni. Tom Savini and Joe Pilato are probably the most notable names amongst them. For those of you who are into packaging, it's pretty standard for the AGFA releases. It's got the ever so popular reversible cover. And it's got this nice little booklet featuring liner notes by the guy who runs AGFA. His name escapes me at the moment. Is Effects a good movie? Well, that's going to be a question that's going to split the audience. About half of the people like it, about half the people don't. And my opinion is split too, because I like about half of this movie. The first half of the flick is pretty much character building. There's, get to know all the characters, which you kind of got to do. And it's occasionally a pretty cool look at what life on an actual independent film set at the time was like there in the late 70s. But man, is it slow. It takes a long time getting where it's going. For the first, half hour, you're kind of wondering, okay, are we doing anything here? But then about halfway through, the crew decides to do a bunch of coke and watch a snuff film, which around here we just call another average Tuesday night. But after that, it gets good. See, this movie was way ahead of its time in terms of meta filmmaking. Scream hadn't come along and made self-referential horror a thing yet, and, it wasn't really done. But this one really blurs the lines. You can't really tell if what you're watching is real and the movie's messing with your head, or if it's the crew in the movie messing with the cameraman's head. It really kind of blurs all that, and you don't really know what's on the up and up and what's real. And it's really interesting in that respect. It's a really cool watch for the second half of the movie. Another interesting thing is watching Joe Pilato try and be likable. Yeah, he plays the cameraman. He's the good guy, which is interesting because, of course, he is most notable for playing the bad guy in Day of the Dead, the biggest asshole in horror history, Captain Rhodes. Honestly, I will say that it's a better snuff movie than the movie Snuff. God, that was a weird sentence. As far as the extras, if you remember the Synapse DVD that was the only other official release of this, it's got the exact same extras. It's got the 1 hour making of documentary. It's got 2 short films by the makers of this flick, and it's got commentary tracks for both the actual movie and the making of documentary. As far as the transfer, it's a new 4K scan from the only 35mm print that was ever struck of this movie for theatrical use. Apparently the 16mm original was no longer usable, just a little too far gone. Because of this, it does have a lot of film lines, and it has a lot of dirt and, film noise, things like that, which I actually think works in this film's favor, because for a movie about snuff films from the 70s, you really don't want it too clear. You kind of want that grimy, sleazy kind of feel to it. So I actually kind of dig that it doesn't look pristine. It is a little blurry in some of the darker spots, but honestly, you really can't ask for more from a movie that was honestly thought lost for a long time, and by all means really shouldn't look as good as it does. The colors actually really pop, which is cool, because that makes that Tom Savini melted crayon early blood recipe look extra orange, which I dig. What can I say? It probably won't satisfy some of the more ardent HD fetishists out there, but it looks a whole lot better than that Synapse DVD that I was talking about earlier, by a long shot. Now, the big question is, should you buy this? I say absolutely. I'm amongst those who dug this movie, or at least the second half, and that second half is worth buying it for. It's really cool. The vision of the filmmakers is really fun to unpack and kind of watch it and decide for yourself what exactly they were trying to do, what exactly they were trying to say, where they're messing with you, where they're being straight up with you. Fascinating flick. Even if you hate it, though, this is a cool release to have, because it's kind of like when Arrow put out Bloodbath. It had those 4 different versions of it, and it really gave you a look at how films were distributed at the time, and it was educational, and it's the whole filmmaking business. That's what this is. It's a time capsule of independent film in the 70s. It's interesting to hear the stories about making it, to watch what's probably a true life view of what life on set was like. It's also interesting to see all the George Romero alumni and what they came up with without George Romero, and what a great filmmaker he was, and how he kind of used his influence to bring it all together and make it cohesive, and how it wasn't really on here, but it still had a lot of cool stuff going on. And if for no other reason, buy this to support the AGFA, because them boys is doing the Lord's work. I'm going to give this one 7 out of 10 on the BloodyBlu scale. Nathan says check it out.